Hola mis amores, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sich. If you're here for the first time, thank you so much for discovering this channel. If you're a returnee, thank you for being a subscriber. Before we begin today's lesson, I want to apologize to each and every single one of you that have been sending me messages on Facebook. I don't know what's wrong with my Facebook. It's not notifying when I receive a message. So all the messages that I just saw recently was by chance, and I responded to you guys like a month later, and I'm very sorry for that. But if you need a quick response, please DM me on my Instagram. I'll put my Instagram handle somewhere in this video. But let's do away with that and get into today's lesson. And today we are learning about the United Nations involvement in the case of Namibia, specifically looking at resolution 435. Let me give you a backstory of Namibia and how the United Nations got involved with the case. Namibia became a German colony in 1884, so it was colonized by Germany until 1915. In 1915, South Africa unofficially took over the country. Only in 1920 it was given the right to be like, not really to rule, but to help Namibia gain independence. That was by the League of Nations in 1920. Unfortunately, when South Africa took over, they did not help Namibia gain its independence, but rather they decided to annex Namibia, exploit the country, and use it for their own purpose. As a result, Namibians were not happy, hence asking the United Nations after its formation in 1945 to intervene and to help Namibia fight against the South African. In 1946, the United Nations responded by asking that South Africa places Namibia under the Trusteeship Council of the United Nations. But South Africa refused because they said they do not see the United Nations as a successor of the League of Nations, so they're not going to do that. And to them, they are considering it illegal because they were given this mandate by the League of Nations. So fast forward, in 1948, South Africa introduced the apartheid system in Namibia. Of course, they introduced the apartheid system in Namibia, and along came with it so many acts, such as the Group Areas Act, where people had to be divided according to their races. There was the pass law, where each black person had to walk around with a pass card if they wanted to move from one location to the next. There was the Curfew Act also, where black people had to be at home at a certain hour. There was the Bantu Education Act, where Bantu people, or the black people of Namibia, received a different education from that of the white Namibians. There was also the Amenities Act, where everything was separated. There were so many acts, and Namibians did not like these acts, and as a result they asked the United Nations to intervene in the situation. The United Nations got involved, but South Africa was not listening. They did not want to do what the United Nations wanted them to do. In 1960, Liberia and Ethiopia took South Africa to the International Court of Justice, but their case was dismissed because the United Nations said that it was not their matter for them to get involved. So Namibia had to fight its case without the Liberians and the Ethiopians getting involved. So fast forward to the Security Council of the United Nations. In September 1978, they passed what was known as Resolution 435. There were so many resolutions, obviously, that the Security Council as well as the General Assembly passed, but they were never effective. So the reason why we speak mostly about Resolution 435, that was the last resolution which was effective, which led Namibia to independence in 1990. So let's find out what were the objectives, what was outlined in Resolution 435. The aims of Resolution 435 was that Walvis Bay was to be returned back to Namibia, because what they did, that before they took Walvis Bay away from Namibia and they placed it under the Praetorian government in South Africa. So Walvis Bay, although geographically was in Namibia, it did not belong to Namibia. So the Resolution 435 said that Namibia should be given back Walvis Bay, and that South Africa should not use Walvis Bay port for their own benefit. Then the resolution also asked that the South African administration in Namibia should be denounced, and that the Namibians should be the one to be ruling their country. all political prisoners that were taken from Namibia had to come back to Namibia. They also asked that the South African Defence Force withdraw from Namibia, but they also said that they should keep at least 1,500 troops until such a time that Namibia gained its independence. They also asked that there should be fair and free elections, which were going to be supervised by the United Nations. And in this case, the United Nations came up with its a group which was known as the United Nations Assistance Transitional Group, which was UNTAG, or UNTAG as we call it, headed by Marty Atisari. The resolution also said that all Namibians should be allowed to have free movement and choose where they wanted to live without being confined to one place. Because remember, in 1962 there was the Odenta Plan that divided Namibians into homelands, so Namibians could not mix. So the resolution said that Namibians should be allowed to live wherever they wanted. That was in 1978, right? But Namibia only gained its independence in 1990. So what happened? What made Namibia not to gain the independence in 1978, but 10 years later? So we get to find out how South Africa responded to Resolution 435 and what prolonged the Namibian independence. So why did South Africa refuse Resolution 435? The reason is because South Africa still wanted to keep Namibia for their own economic benefit. But one major thing that made them not to want to do that was because of the Cuban troops in Angola. Angola just received its independence in 1975. The Cubans came to Angola to help Angola. And remember, the Cubans were communist. So United States, aiding South Africa, said that they will only allow South Africa to remove their troops from Namibia if the Cubans in Angola also left, because they feared the spread of communism. They feared that if the Cubans being in Angola could influence Angolans to become communists, they could also do the same to Namibia. So the United States and South Africa said that the only way that their troops are going to be removed and that South Africa is going to hand over Namibia to the United Nations is if the Cuban troops in Angola were to move out. So they rejected Resolution 435. They say we are not going to give in to Resolution 435 until such a time that the Cubans in Angola leave. The dispute concerning the Cuban troops in Angola went on for almost 10 years. Only in 1988 was the issue finally resolved after South Africa, Angola, and Cuba sat down and they came into a bilateral agreement agreeing that the Cubans will leave Angola, and it was done. So the Cubans finally left Angola, and South Africa said they can also finally leave Namibia after this. But the truth is this, the only reason why also South Africa decided, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why South Africa left Namibia, it's not only because of the troops in Angola, it was also because of its economic sanctions that were imposed on South Africa. It was badly affecting the economy of South Africa. So South Africa had no other option but to change its direction towards their colonization of Namibia. So was Resolution 435 effective? Yes, it was effective. Obviously, it was not effective at the beginning, but as from the 1st of April 1989, it became effective. Finally, South Africa left, and the United Nations was preparing Namibia for its independence. And to guarantee that South Africa had truly left, or that they had truly given up Namibia, the UNTAG was sent to Namibia with a personnel of about 7,900 people that were overseeing the whole process. They were teaching Namibians how to vote. They were teaching them who was eligible to vote. They're also making sure that all political prisoners, all refugees were brought back to Namibia. Namibians could relocate to wherever they wanted to be. So on the 7th to the 11th of November 1989, Namibia finally had its first free and fair elections, and a new constitution was set up for Namibia, which was not linked to South Africa. On the 21st of March, Namibia gained its independence, and Sam Nujoma, or should I say the SWAPO party, won the elections, and Sam Nujoma was the president of Namibia. Although the South African Defence Force was removed from Namibia, it refused to give Walvis Bay to Namibia. Only in 1994, when South Africa became a democratic nation, that's when it gave Walvis Bay back to Namibia. So in short, that was the resolution 435. We spoke about why South Africa rejected it. We spoke about the objectives of resolution 435, and we also spoke about its effectiveness in the liberation struggle of Namibia. Thank you so much for watching. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, as I've said, please do subscribe, and please give my video a thumbs up. Recommend this video to somebody, share this video, comment in the comment section below, and let's continue learning history together. I'll be seeing you next time. From Message, it's adios, mis amores.